In this video, we're going to talk about the concept of marginal and average taxes. There's a brief mention of this in section 4.5. This is the same section with the Laffer curve. And they talk about it briefly, but then a homework problem has all kinds of stuff on it. So I thought I would include a short video to kind of help you with some of the concepts. Okay. So the idea quickly is that marginal taxes are the taxes on additional income you make. Right? So marginal always means additional. So a marginal tax rate is just taxing you on additional money. Average tax rates are essentially the average rate of all the taxes you pay. Right? So that's the big difference between the two. Okay. So if we turn to this question, which is on the homework for chapter 4, they basically throw all kinds of average and marginal tax rates at you, even though there really wasn't that much in the textbook. So I thought I would help you guys out a little bit. Okay. So they give you this table, right? And you've got two countries, country A and country B, okay? And it shows their income there and the taxes they pay, okay? So here's a way to read this table. In country A, if your income is exactly $20,000, you would essentially pay a tax of $1,000. So if your income is $20,000, you pay $1,000. Okay. If you make more than that, say if you make up to $40,000, the total tax you would pay would be $8,000 if you had an income of $40,000. And again, if your income was $60,000, the total tax you would pay would be $24,000. Okay. So that's the way to read the table. Country B is the same thing, right? $20,000, $40,000, $60,000. And the number on the right lists the total taxes you have to pay. Okay. Now, the first questions this problem is going to ask about is the marginal tax rate. So again, marginal is on additional income. Okay. So it's going to ask, what is the marginal tax rate? That is, what's the percentage you're paying on that additional income you make? So here's the way to kind of work through this problem. Okay. So marginal is additional. So if we look at when you go from making $20,000 to $40,000, and so I'm going to draw a line kind of right here, right? So this jump from $20,000 to $40,000 is an increase in income of $20,000, okay? So when you make that jump, right, what is your corresponding increase in taxes? A little line here, right? Well, your taxes go up by $7,000, right? So there's an increase in taxes of $7,000, okay? So your income increased by $20,000 and the amount of taxes you paid went from $1,000 up to $8,000. So this is getting at the marginal tax rate. So the question is, what percentage of $20,000 gives you $7,000? Well, the math for that is pretty simple, right? The percentage is going to equal to 7,000 divided by 20,000, which is equal to 35%. Okay, so that's what you would put in right here. Country A, marginal tax rate, when you go from an income of 20,000 to 40,000, basically you would put in 35 here. Okay, we can do the exact same thing when we go from 40 to 60,000. So I'm going to draw a line over here, right? So we have an increase, again, of $20,000. And what happens to our taxes? Well, they go from $8,000, let me try to fit it over here, $8,000 up to $24,000. Well, that's an increase in taxes of $16,000. Okay? Well, our percentage, again, is going to equal to $16,000, running out of space here, divided by the $20,000. Okay? So, 16,000 divided by 20,000 is going to give you 80%. So you would put 80 down here, right? Because you made 20,000 more and you had to pay an additional $16,000. So your marginal tax rate is 80%. Okay? You can do the same thing here for country B, right? To go from 20 to 40,000, we have an increase in income of $20,000. which means your taxes go up by $4,000. So therefore, your marginal percentage is going to be 4,000, sorry, divided by 20,000, right, which is going to equal to 20%. Okay. The last one here, again, you have a plus. When you're going from 40 to 60, you get an additional $200,000, and your taxes go from $10,000 up to $12,000. So they increased by $2,000. So therefore, the percentage is going to equal to 2,000 divided by 20,000. This should be equal to 10%. Okay. So now you have all the numbers to put in here. Right? So this is going to be 20% here and 10% here. Okay. So that's how you do the marginal taxes. It's about additional income and how much additional taxes you pay on that additional income. Okay. Now the second thing it's going to ask is your average tax rate. Now your average tax rate is essentially just the percentage of your income that your tax liability is. Okay. So for the first one here, right, if you make $20,000, you pay taxes of $1,000, which means your tax rate is essentially going to be equal to 1,000 divided by 20,000. Okay? So that means it's 5%. Right? That's for this one right here. Country A making 20,000. If you're making $40,000, you're paying a tax of 8,000. So then your percentage is 8,000 divided by 40,000, which is going to give you 20%. Okay. So you're going to put in 5 here. You're going to put in 20 here. And if you do the math for 60,000, you're going to divide 24,000 by 60,000, and you should essentially get 40%. Okay. Now, for country B, you would do the same thing, right? The percentage for here is going to be equal to 6,000 divided by 20,000. Okay. Which should give you 30%. Right? And you do the same thing for $40,000 income level, and then again for $60,000 income level, you get 30%, you should get 25%, and then lastly, you should get 20%. Now, keep in mind, you're probably going to get a slightly different version than this on the homework. So again, there'll be different numbers, so just keep that in mind, but the method to solve it will be the same. Okay. Now, the last thing it's going to ask is, okay, is this type of tax system progressive, proportional, regressive? Right? Remember, progressive is the tax rate you pay goes up, right, as you gain more income. Proportional is like a flat tax. It stays the same. Regressive is where the tax rate goes down as you gain more income. Okay? So let's go back to country A, right? As we look here, we'll go in green. Marginal taxes, as your income level increases, so does your tax rate. It goes from 35 up to 80%. Okay? Country B over here, as their income increases, their marginal tax rate decreases, goes from 10 to 20 to 10%. Same thing with the average taxes. Country A, the average tax rate is going up. Country B, the average tax rate is going down. So therefore, country A would be a progressive tax system, and country B would be a regressive tax system. Okay? So that's how you'd solve those types of problems.